Okay, go ahead. We are live
Okay.
now.
Yeah. Um. Good afternoon, uh, distinguished viewers of Eyes of Africa TV. Today the 17th of October 2020. We are on here to discuss the issue that have been bothering a lot of us. And the topic of today is going to be how to help a slow learner to become a genius. And joining us today, we have our guest speaker today. We have
Mrs.
Beatrice
Beatrice
from South Africa
from South Africa
and
and
Mrs. Adeyemi
Mrs.
from Lagos,
Adeyemi from Lagos.
my
My
co-host, myself, Mrs. Mary from the United Kingdom. Welcome to the show. Can you please introduce yourself a little bit once again so that our viewers can know you better?
A bright African good afternoon to you and your listeners. Thank you for having me. My name is Ankrita Beatrice Achaleke. I am a serial author of the book series Africa for Smart Kids and publisher of Globuntu Books.
You're welcome to the show, Ma.
Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, today is going to be how to help the slow learner to become a genius. And Ma, if I ask you, please, is being a slow learner a disability?
I think we have to be very careful the way we use the word disability because by just using that word, you can give someone the permission to feel like they're disabled.
Yeah.
And having a disability is not something that anyone wants to. I mean, some people don't have a choice, they are born with disabilities. But being a slow learner doesn't make you someone who is disabled. It just probably means that you need some special attention, some special conditions to help you learn. Being a slow learner doesn't mean that you are disabled. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't mean that you're dumb. It doesn't by any means mean that you're dull. It just means that you need special attention. And quite often we fail to attend to the children. We have to attend to the children and to give them that special attention that they require to be able to learn. I myself, I could say I'm a very slow learner. And slow learner are just those people who need more time. They need more time to be able to absorb, to understand, to grab, and to come along compared to their peers. And again, it doesn't by any means mean that they are less intelligent than anyone else.
Okay, thank you so much for dealing with that question because sometimes when we talk about slow learner, I think some people will just feel maybe it's a kind of disabilities or maybe the person um is not being able is he or she is not able to cope or something. So people and like you said, we have to be very careful of using the disability because it might make other or the people or he or she look herself lesser or something. Thank you very much, Ma, that for dealing with that question. And also, what are the symptoms like? What are the parents gonna look out for from that particular child for them to make sure helping the kid or the child out of that problem to make he or she come out to be able to, you know, embrace learning.
There are many symptoms. There are many symptoms that you can look out for. But the very common ones is when a child has difficulties in reading or writing. When children have difficulties in reading or writing, if they are slow in absorbing the material that is presented to them, if they have difficulties dealing with numbers, like in terms of mathematics, doing calculations, that would be a sign of a slow learner. If someone has challenges with remembering, with a slow memory, you tell them something and then the next moment they can't really figure it out. They can't remember what you said to them or what they read. Then that is something that you want to, pay attention to. Another one is when they have difficulty staying focused or concentrating on a particular task for a certain amount of time, then that is also an indication that you really need to pay attention to your child. If they have difficulties following directions, you give them some directions how to do this, how to do that, and they don't really capture it. It means they need attention. You need to pay attention to them. I want to stress in this moment that when you have those symptoms in your children, some of us are parents who are working, working parents, and you're
Yeah,
juggling so many things. You're juggling life. You're trying to catch up with now that we have kids being homeschooled. You become a teacher without having learned how to be a teacher.
exactly.
You have to pay the bills. Some parents are single parents. Um, some never really went to school themselves. So you get overwhelmed when you discover these traces in your children. And quite often we bully the children, we shout at them, instead of encouraging them, we get to kind of speaking to them in a way that is not really very, 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 very nice. It's not supportive. And we
Yeah.
compare them to other children, we compare them to their peers. And I think these are some of the mistakes that we make in terms of our parenting. A child who is a slow learner, there are quite a lot of reasons that may be behind that. One of them may be that they have, first of all, each child is very unique. We are
Yeah.
all very unique and we're differently
Right.
gifted, we're differently intelligent, we're differently able.
Right.
And some children grab things very easily. They may have other challenges in some areas. Some
Yeah.
kids learn very slowly, but it doesn't mean again that they are dull. So this may have to do with certain conditions. Some of them are social, some of them are personal, some of them are educational, some of them just have to do with their emotional state of being. Okay, so now let's touch a little bit on the different backgrounds, the different aspects that may contribute to making a kid a slow learner. If a
Mm.
child is born premature, quite often we forget, when the kids grow up, we forget under what conditions they were born. If a kid was born premature, then the
Mm.
kid is likely going to have, must not be, but could have could become a slow learner because maybe some parts of the brain are not very well developed. So that could be one of the reasons. If a child has been exposed to trauma, and in our Black communities, we are exposed to a lot of trauma. Some of this
Traumas.
trauma
Yeah.
is generational trauma that has to do with the history of who we are as Black people. So children who have been exposed to this kind of trauma and haven't really gotten any help out of that situation may have a tendency to become slow learners. Um, Children who have to do with teachers who are impatient. If you're in a school that is a classroom that is overcrowded, you have a teacher who is impatient. In your class, you have peers who are kind of smart Alex, they're smarter than you are. Then this
Mm.
could become very intimidating for that child, for that particular learner, and
Yeah.
and that intimidation could lead them to really kind of dropping, to not striving to be good, to be better learners. Kids who are bullied, and I want to mention this in our Black families. Children. So if they go through that kind of very authoritative parenting, that sometimes to bullying, sometimes to beating, sometimes to all kinds of severe punishment, this could very highly intimidate the child and lead to the child losing a lot of self-confidence, losing self-esteem. And if they have less self-esteem and less self-confidence, this could be one of the reasons that will really affect their learning abilities. So I see like my host is gone. I don't know if I'm speaking to myself right now. So what another reason could be because the kid is overprotected at home. Some parents, whereby we have some parents who are very authoritative and very demanding, we do have on the other side some parents who are overprotective. So if you're overprotective in the way that you don't allow your child to learn and even learn from their mistakes, you don't allow them to make mistakes, and you rather do their homework for them, you rather do some of the assignments for them, take the that they should be doing and doing it on their behalves, then that could really lead to that child becoming even more, even very lazy, to the extent that that affects their learning abilities. Okay. Another one is when kids are exposed to um, in schools, the kind of school where they are. Some children, I said kids are differently gifted. Some kids are good in mathematics with numbers. Some kids are good with writing. Some are just storytellers, natural storytellers. Some are good in sciences. So you want to really be careful where you're sending your child to. If you're sending them in a learning environment that doesn't really take into consideration what their gift is, what they are passionate about, what they are capable of, then you may kill the genius in them. When you kill the genius
Okay.
in them, their desire to learn reduces. Okay, I mean,
Right.
there's so many reasons that I could give you, but these are some of the most common things that I wish that we African parents, that we bear those in mind. Bear in mind that it is extreme, in as much as the school is there to teach your child. The
Mm.
first education starts at home. That's the place where the kid should feel accepted, should feel encouraged, nourished, protected. If they are bullied at school, they should be able to come back home and find love and find acceptance. If they are bullied by their peers on the road to the school, if they are bullied by their peers on social media, and it does happen these days, they should be able to have to find solace at home. And if they can't
Yeah.
find this at home, this can very, very massively affect the way they learn.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, you when you were this when we are saying when we're discussing, you made mention of like in Africa, the way we teach our children is not by smacking them or to give them hard work. If you don't learn today, you're not going to eat. If you don't learn today, you're not going to go on your bed, and all those kind of threats, that will make so they feel that will make that child to um be have the passion or be serious about his or her learning. And can you please throw more light on that? Like, what are the things you're supposed to do to encourage that child to be able to learn, but not to beat up that child, not to give that child a kind of job that he or she should do. Since you don't learn today, you are going there to clear all the to do all the dishes, you're going there to hoover all the house and all that. So what are the encouragement you need to give to that child by not doing that, but a kind of mild something, a kind of encouragement that will make that child to have the passion to learn?
Before I take that question, I would like to add something else. Some of the reasons behind slow learning.
Yeah.
There are some conditions that children can have. One
Yeah.
of them is called dyslexia. Dyslexia is something that is very well researched in some European countries and American countries.
Yeah.
But on our continent, we know very little about dyslexia. And dyslexia is just that condition that is responsible for kids not being able to write properly. Some of them write with a lot of typos. Some of them write half sentences. They have challenges with writing and reading. So this is a condition that is very common in children, especially on our continent, especially among Black families, even in the diaspora, that
Yeah.
needs to be diagnosed. If your child is having difficulties writing, the thing that you should do is seek the help or the advice of an expert. Let the expert take a close look at the child to be able to tell you whether this child has a condition called dyslexia, if this child has a condition called ADHD, it's hyper attention deficiency hyperactive syndrome or something like that. I have to find that name and say it properly. I'm a little bit so it's ADHD
Okay.
is attention deficiency hyperactive disorder. Okay, not a syndrome, it is a disorder. So those are some conditions that are medical conditions that you really need to get an expert help to tell you how to work with your kids, because they are learning strategies that have been developed to help specifically those children who have the condition of dyslexia or ADHD. It's something that you want to be mindful of. So
Yeah.
that said, there are many ways that you can help, many methods or many strategies that you can put in place to help a child who is a slow learner. The one thing that you have to bear in mind that being a slow learner is already something that is like a burden on the child's shoulders.
Yeah.
So they already feel it. They get things thrown at them at school. The teacher bullies them. Everyone is
Yeah.
bullying them. Everyone is pointing fingers at them,
Fingers
and
at
that is
them.
already so much. That is already so much that the child can bear. If amongst that the child has siblings who are smarter, kind of
Mm.
smarter or faster than he or she is, then there is always this comparison. Everyone is comparing. Your friend is doing this, your friend is doing that, your brother is like this. Why can't you be? Those are questions that you shouldn't ask, because, again, the child is very, very special. Now, if you have the feeling that your child is a slow learner, then you need to pay a lot of attention to that child. That
Attention.
child
Yeah.
may be a genius. And quite often, children who are slow learners, when they get around to learning it, they learn better than the fast learners. They retain better than the fast learners. But you
Mm.
need to create the atmosphere and put in place the strategies that will help them. So, one of them, number one, is get to understand your child. Understand your child. Take
Mm.
time to sit down and talk with your child, listen to your child, allow them to say whatever they want to say, encourage them to speak, because quite often slow learners, because they lose self-esteem and self-confidence, they are introverts, they are
Yeah.
shy, they quite often don't speak. So they feel
They don't
immediately
speak.
intimidated. So you have to create that atmosphere, even if it means just the two of you. Find the moment when you think your child is at his or her best and try to talk to them, listen to
Yeah.
them. Try to understand what is their gift, what are they talented in, what is it that they love to do, what are they passionate about. When you find out all those things, what the kid loves to do, then you help
Yeah.
them to do just that, because they need a sense of success. When they do one thing and they see that they do it right, the next thing that you want to do is reward them for what they do right, so
Yeah.
that they can savor that sense of success, the sense of achievement. And savoring that can really help them to activate more interest in learning. It will
Learning.
really, really help them. I can guarantee you this. The third thing that you want to do is learn how to affirm your child to greatness. Learn how to focus on the things that they do best. Talk to them about the things that they do best and not the things that they don't do right. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you a quick example right here. My children are dyslexic. They went to a school in Austria. So, in the school, because they were the only black kids in that school, so they had these challenges with the teacher, because the teacher always assumed that because they're black kids, they don't have a good mastery of the German language. But they were born there. The only language that they speak, their first language, is German. So,
Yeah.
but they looked upon like that. And so when my kids, this is what I did to really help my kids. I told them, when you have a bad mark at school, send me a text message while I'm still at work.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want to eat this evening, your favorite meal, and I'll make sure that I cook that meal. And by
Right.
so doing, I celebrate my child instead of reprimanding him or her. Okay, so we just don't talk about it. Um, we don't talk about it. We do something that is nice, because they already come home with that stress. They already had it at school. On the way home, they're like thinking, what is mom going to do? But
Gonna
if we
do.
just don't talk
Yeah.
about it, it gives them a good feeling. Let them settle,
Yeah.
let them settle,
Let
let
them
them just
settle.
be. Okay. So
Mm.
quite often, mothers, African parents who are in the diaspora, they are very, very, they want their children to excel. They want their children to be what they could not be. They want their children to be the best
Because of
for
the
so many
color or
reasons,
something. Yeah.
that we don't want to go into now. Some of them are social reasons, some of them are political reasons, some economic reasons, but they put a lot of stress on their children. And I want to say, please step back and let your children just be children. Okay. So I was talking about number three. There is a book that I wrote. It's called Globuntu ABC Affirmations for the Black Child. It's how you teach your child ABC from an affirmative perspective. Okay. So you say A for I am African, I am amazing, I am abounding. B for I
Yeah.
am black, I am bold, I am, I am bright. You know, from A to Z, we have to
Mm.
affirm our children to believe in themselves. We have to affirm them to embrace themselves, to accept the fact that being black doesn't mean that you're less. That being black
Yeah.
doesn't, an African doesn't mean that you are less important. It doesn't mean that you're less intelligent. And because they grow up around all this negativity, we need to affirm them. Okay. So, number one, I said you have to pay attention, take time and get to understand your child. It's very
Yeah.
important that you understand the child. Number two, create rewards. Reward them for the things that they do
Yeah.
right and even the things that they don't do right. Give them
Right.
space to breathe. Number three is affirm them. Make them love themselves, make them accept themselves by choosing, by being careful about the words that you use around them, the conversation that you have with them. Number three is creating small targets. Give them small targets to achieve. Don't compare them with others. Give them small targets, and when they achieve this small target, acknowledge the targets and praise them. Celebrate them for acknowledging those targets, and then give them another small target. Work the targets together with them. Don't impose the targets on them. Sit down with them and ask them, what is it that you like to do best today? From this assignment, what part will you want to accomplish today and tomorrow? Give them a timeline and let them be the ones to decide how much they want to accomplish within that timeline. You'll be
Mm.
amazed. You'll be amazed how much these children can do when you give them to understand that you believe in them, you trust in them, and that they can count on your support. That you're not going to bully them, you're not going to judge them. Don't judge them. Okay.
Yeah.
When you give them all those, when you give them that backing, you give them that backing, you will be amazed how transformational this will be for your children. Be patient
Okay.
with them. Be very patient with them. If they need repetitive learning. They need that you take time to teach them what their peers are learning very fast. They may need 1 week to learn just that one thing. Try to give them that time. And if your time planning, your agenda doesn't allow it, seek the help of someone who is patient with them. They need a lot of patience and understanding. So when you do that, one thing you want to do is avoid competition completely. Don't compete them with anyone, not their peers, not their siblings, not the rest of your family members, and not with yourself. Quite many of us will say, oh, I was smart at school, I was this, I was that. Your
Mm.
child is not you. The environment in which your child is growing is not the environment in which you grow. Your
Yeah.
child is your child, and your job as a parent, as an adult, is to support that child to be their best selves. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I said, you must get support and
Yeah.
avoid take extra time. Take extra time and just show your child some love.
Love.
Don't talk
Yeah.
about school. Don't talk about learning.
Mm.
Let them tell you what they want to talk about. And when they talk about this thing, you acknowledge them, you affirm them, you praise them, you reward them, you celebrate them, and you'll be
Yeah.
amazed at what will happen with your child.
Yeah, I think thank you so much, Ma. I think like what you just say now, you've almost dealt with all the questions, because it's like that is the kind of question most parents is going to ask, you know. Like I'm sorry that we keep on referring back to Africa. We have to refer back to Africa, because I think that is one of those things that parents are not really doing well for their children to come out of that, should I call it laziness, or don't want to learn or something. But
I will be careful, excuse me, I will be careful with the word. It's not laziness, it's a
yeah,
condition.
yeah, is that,
It
yeah,
is a
it's not
condition
gonna,
that the
it's not,
children are
yeah,
facing. Okay,
yeah,
so when you
what they
say
are
they are
facing.
lazy, you're
Yeah,
being
no, they are not
judgmental
a
to.
kind of lazy, or some kids, some kids will, when you tell them, oh, you have to do like this today is Saturday, they have to do their work for school on Monday, which is their homework. When you call them, maybe when they are playing game and all that, oh mom, I'm coming, don't worry, 2 second, 3 second and all that, you know that is why I use the word lazy. I'm not saying they are lazy, a kind of,
I get you.
because they are so much interesting on what that thing they are doing at that particular time. They don't want to leave, to come out to make sure they do their work. And again, you made mention of to reward these kids, so that it will not be every time. It's not going to be a kind of boom, you have to learn, you have to do this. Sometimes when you have reports from school, I can remember when I was little, when, for example, or like this weekend we've done our assignment and all that, going back to school on Monday, and your teacher will just, all what you've done is, not. Maybe at the end of like 20, you're going to have like 5. You fail 15. Your heart is already beating. What is my mom going to do to me today? What's my parent? What are they going to say? The first thing is for them to, oh, how many did you have today in school? You are scared of bringing this result or bringing these marks out for them to see. I think it's not really all time for a parent to be kind of, pushing. You have to do this, you have to do that. Sometimes we need these children need encouragement as well, to encourage them, to make sure you give them some little gift, treat them like what you said, treat them so right, treat them nice. I know back home there is no like McDonald's, there's no like I think there's a kind of KFC Lagos, KFC
Listen,
Abuja.
listen, listen. Sorry, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop you right there
Yeah.
because spoiling your child doesn't mean that you give them junk food.
No, no,
McDonald's for me
no,
is
a
not a
kind of,
reward, and
yeah,
KFC.
yeah, I know, a kind
So,
of,
but
yeah, a kind
listen.
of to just encourage them to. It's not every day. It's not every day you do all those things. Just
Mhm.
sometimes. It's not like what you do always.
Now,
Once in a while.
let me share with you what I did with my kids,
Yeah,
which is very simple. Any parents can do it. Take a jar that you
yeah,
can open and keep it in a space. Sit down with your children and plan what you want to do, the kind of activities that they will love to do. Okay, what is it that you love? Some will say go on holidays. Okay, some will say go to McDonald's. Some will say play a game. Some will say watch TV. Some will say go visit my friends, sleep over. Write all of those small things in pieces of small papers and
yeah,
drop them in the jar. Okay, now when it comes to schoolwork or housework or whatever thing that you need to do, tell
yeah,
your children each time that we get it right, one of you is going to pick out what is in there, and what comes
yeah.
out we're going to do. That's a kind of reward. That jar is your reward jar. And what is in there is what all of you have unanimously contributed to. So
Yeah,
you just
you have
randomly
just
go
said
in
it.
there.
Yeah, you have just said it. Sorry to cut you. You have just said it because in that jar now, you're gonna write holiday. You're gonna write McDonald's, KFC, or wherever inside. So when a child picks that particular stuff, is what that child pick. That is what you're gonna do. I am not saying it's not every time you take a child for holiday. It's not
Yes,
it's
I
not
was
a
going to
kind of
come there.
around the
I was
clock.
going to
You
come there.
understand? Yeah. So
I,
when a child picks that, it means you're gonna take them for a treat. So that alone, why they are in that school on that day, or maybe okay, you're gonna say, oh, since it's weekdays, we can't go to McDonald's. Since we've already picked this for Wednesday, okay, weekend we're gonna go for McDonald's. I think that will that will boost that child's morale. Kind of a child that child wants to learn, wants to do because he or she knows mom is going to treat me, and maybe that might even motivate that child to remain in that level of wants to learn and all that. I just feel that is a kind of um thing that you can do, but you can throw more light on it.
yes, thank you for that. So the jar, I want to go back to the jar so that people don't get it wrong.
Yeah.
You can have several jars. The jar are activities that we can do immediately. In there, you
Mm,
put those that you can do anytime. The second jar is things that you can do during the week. Okay. The
mm.
third jar are things that you can do during the weekend. And you have another jar that is for bigger budgets.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So you can say for this kind of activity, once
Mm,
in a year or once every 5 years, for something that we've done so great, we're going to go pick from the fourth jar, which is the holiday jar.
yeah.
Because and you can also agree with your children to say, okay, if we pick out of the holiday jar and we do not yet have the budget, we will have to plan, we schedule it, and we save towards that. And the idea of getting your kids to be involved in the saving process towards that holiday or towards that activity, it's something that engages them. They're part of it. Again, you'll be amazed how many ideas your kids will come up with. You'll get to know your kids from a completely new perspective when
Yeah.
you engage them. When we are busy parents, we tend to want to do things and impose them on our children. And because we're imposing things on them, just like the school system imposes a syllabus on them without really knowing what they do or how they can contribute to it, then we fail them. Then they expect, we create a space of expectation where they expect parents to do this, do this, do this. My children, I bought them a present. I'll say, you have to save. You save, you want anything that you want to have, you are paying 30% and I pay 70%. You pay 50% and I pay 50%. How do you come about your 50%? You do house chores, you do your homework, you do this. When you do that, you get that reward and you save it towards getting something. It's all about creating incentives, right?
Yeah.
In the workplace, some employers create incentives. At school, the school is your first job place. It's a company. I call my family with my children my company. They are my clients. They are my co-workers. They are my sponsors. They are everything that you can think of. So you have to treat them that way. Engage them because these children are going to be parents in future. They're going to be employees or leaders in the future. So that kind of parenting where you put in responsibility, bring in incentive, pay attention to each one of their needs, give them free time, don't make them compare them to other children, make sure that you understand them. Those are the values that you instill in the child so that this child should become a citizen of the world tomorrow that you, the parent, will sit back and be proud of. So parenting is not just making the child go to school. Parenting is about helping a young child in your responsibility to become a good citizen of the world tomorrow. And becoming a good citizen comes with a set of values, a set of activities, a set of events and
Right.
circumstances that you have to look
Right.
out to.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. And another question is, how do you or how can you bring out this genuine this how can you bring that spirit or a kind of for you to bring them out of that being
How to bring out the genius out of a slow
the
learner.
genius, yeah, how to
Okay.
bring it out of them, yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to repeat myself right now,
Mm,
and we do it just to emphasize again. The first thing is understanding who your child is,
yeah.
understanding what your child is capable of, understanding what your child is passionate about,
Yeah.
understanding what your child loves. Okay, so when you understand all those things and you let them know that you understand them, and you then ask them how they think that you can support them. Children may be children, but they know what they want. If you
Mm,
ask them, instead of saying, "Oh, you must do this, you must do it this way, this is how it is done," sit down and ask them, "How may I support you?" Have a conversation with your children. Again, we come from a very authoritative education. It doesn't mean that we should carry it forward to
yeah,
our
sorry,
children.
sorry to cut you.
So,
When you're going to ask a child that how may I help you, don't you think that child would tell you, oh, I want you to don't bother me anymore to read, don't bother me to do this. So how can you have that conversation with that child and a kind of how do I help you? Don't you think a
yeah,
parent have to come up with something because he is your child or he or she is your child, you know what he or she is capable of doing? Don't you, is it not right for you as a parent to come up with something that will help that child, for you to help, or not for you to ask that child how may I help you to learn?
one doesn't exclude the other. There would
Okay.
there would be one aspect where you say, as a parent, this is what I think is good for you.
Mm,
Okay, as a
mm,
parent, this is what I think is good for you. So what do you think is good for you? You make a plan. You tell the child, we are here to make you succeed. We are here to get the best out of you. And in order to get there, you and I have to work together, and the school has to work with us as well. So this is what I can do for you. What is it that you like to bring to it so that we can make you the best? Okay, it's having
okay.
taking time to have that conversation. You can't always impose on a child as a parent, and you can't always want the child to take the decisions, but you have to find that golden middle where you communicate with your child. Sometimes
Mm,
you're going to be bringing in from your experience and from your responsibility as a parent. If the child is not forthcoming, then you have to have a plan. But if a child has a plan, I wish that you listen to the child's plan. Because if you listen to their plan, you engage them, then they're likely going to implement. And if they don't implement, you can hold them responsible for that because you did
mm,
not impose it on them. So you can try both ways and see which one is working. And you can alternate the different strategies. okay, by asking the child, how can I support you? Where do we come in? You don't say it generally. You pick one particular things. We're talking about mathematics. We're talking about reading. So this has been your challenge. How do you want to overcome this challenge? Where may I support you? So it's not a general thing that you put on the table. You are on a specific thing. Now, another thing is put a plan on the table, like the weekend. Tell the child, this is the assignment that you're supposed to do until Sunday evening. Let the child figure out what time they have to do that assignment. Your role is making sure that it is done by Sunday 6 p.m. and you agree on that time with them. Okay. So, and you tell them whenever time you do it, it's all right by me, as long as by 6 p.m. Sunday evening, this assignment is done. That way you give them the responsibility to choose when they want to do it. And don't go reminding them. But at the end of the day, you may have consequences. When you have rewards, you have to have consequences on the other end. Otherwise, you spoil the child. So the consequences may be, my children, I give them house arrest. There is no violence in my family, but you get house arrest. You don't get your smartphone. You don't get on the computer. You don't see your friends. You have house arrest in your room. And when you have house arrest, we're loving parents. My daughter used to say, do you love me? I said, yes. So can I get 1 hour free? No, you don't get 1 hour free. Your consequence with your house arrest. Corporal punishment and physical punishment, I'm not an advocate of that. I don't slap my child. But house arrest is one way of really getting them. They're in the room, they're thinking about why they're under house arrest.
So are you going to tell them why they are under that house arrest, or you just going to put them under the... Okay, good.
No, putting them under house arrest is the consequence of a task that was not accomplished on time.
Right.
You're supposed to do your assignment until 6 p.m. I give you all the weekend. Make sure that by 6 p.m. I'm checking your house as your homework. If at 6 p.m. I check and your homework is not done, the consequence of you not having done it is that you get a house arrest. That house arrest may be 1 day, maybe 1 weekend, maybe 1 week. You still go to school. When you come back, you have to stay in your room. And when you put in those, and when they do it right, you reward them. So if you combine those two, the child will know that you're not just punishing them. And sometimes don't tell them, I'll send you to Africa if you don't do it. Africa is a beautiful continent. So there are quite a lot of things that we do out of
send you to Africa. Yeah, it's like as if you are sending them for an exile or something.
Right. So when you tell my daughter, I'll send you to Africa, she said, right now, because she knows that going to Africa is something positive.
There's going to be freedom there.
So
not going to learn anymore.
have to. No, we do learn in Africa, sister. We learn in Africa.
Yeah, anyway.
What I mean is, if you are
taking the child to Africa, it's a kind of a new environment that you have to give that child that time to be able to cope with the environment or area.
Okay, let me give you the few points again. So pay attention to your child by getting to understand them, affirm them, create rewards, but also consequences, consequences. And please if possible, don't beat them. Don't make it corporal. But give them something that would make them reflect on why they are in this situation. For me, that is the perfect learning process of them. If they just know my mom is going to beat me, they will do it. They get the beatings and they go and they don't reflect on what it really was. And sitting down and asking your child, why did you do it, instead of beating them? They will not have an argument, and that will make them reflect. You want to grow, you want to parent children who are reflective, children who are open, children who think, right? So ask them, why did you do it?
Have
Explain it to me.
the conversation with that child. It might be a reason.
Right. So it's giving them small targets, it's being patient with them. It's not over pampering them. Allow them to make mistakes. Don't judge them by the least mistake they make. We all learn through our mistakes. If you don't make mistakes in life, there's nothing you're going to learn. And just because they're slow in grabbing the thing that you think they should have grabbed and absorbed, doesn't mean that you should bully them. It doesn't mean that you should, kind of use diminishing language on them. You're so stupid. You're so dull. You are very. Avoid using that kind of a language on a child, especially a child who already has a learning condition. So I just think those are some of the things that you could do to support your child, to uplift them, to affirm them, to instill self-confidence in them, give them a sense of self-esteem. Because again, being a Black child in the world is already something that doesn't come with a lot of self-confidence. They have to build their confidence there. And if they have some other conditions, I don't want to call them disabilities or whatever, I just call it a condition because it's something that you can improve on. Then you can really be able to help your child.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Ankwata. Um, Let me quickly ask this before we go, because I think we spent more time on this topic already, because it's supposed to have been from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, just because of some technical or make us to go this far. And lastly, you talk about when a child is being bullied. Some children have been bullied in school and all that, and some parents don't know how to deal with it. Sometimes, like, because we are using this diaspora, like, North Africa, Europe, and all that. Sometimes when a child is being bullied in school, when that child, they say, oh, you can't do anything, you can't do all this thing because of your background and all that. How are you, as a parent, how can you deal with that? How can you help that child to be self-confident, to make sure what they are doing to he or she in that school will not affect the child in learning?
That is a very important question. Black children, they are exposed to a whole lot of situations and circumstances that parents sometimes don't know,
Yeah.
especially in school. Some of them are in WhatsApp groups, in social media.
Mm,
Some of them are on the playing ground. So because of your skin color, you're exposed to some of those
right.
experiences. And it has to do with the fact that we don't teach our children about their African identity. It's the conversation that you are Nigerian, you're based in the UK. What do you tell your children about Nigeria? Is it corruption? Is it all the negative things that we hear that go in the mind of your child? What do you tell them? What do you teach them to make them proud? Because if they know who they are, and they learn to embrace and celebrate and be proud of their African identity because they know more, then that would definitely give them a backing. You can't discriminate against them just because they're black. Because if they know that we manufacture cars in Africa, they know that we have a lot of inventors in Africa, they know that we speak many languages in Africa, and that is something positive. They know that we have great food in Africa. They know that we have 37 female presidents and prime ministers in Africa. They know that we have Nobel Prize winners in Africa. When you give them information that makes them proud of who they are as Africans, even if they're exposed to those kind of bullies, they will know how to stand up. They'll know how to respond. I say this because while I used to live in Europe, there were kindergarten children who asked me, "What can Africa even do to the world?" And me, adult,
Mm,
because I didn't know much, I would not even
mm,
have an answer. So if you
to
can't give an
it.
answer, then that you're exposed even more. I write the book series called Africa for Smart Kids. It came out of the need of me getting to know Africa, my continent, getting to know my vast heritage, and teaching why I learned that, where I get to know that my self confidence grows. I was not always a proud African woman. But when I start doing research and writing this book and seeing how vast and how rich this continent is, I become everywhere you see me today. I will start by saying I'm a very proud African woman because I know what I have, I know where I come from. So I write these books because I want children to not get older and get exposed to some of those things. When they start
Mm,
learning and they have this information, it will really help boost their sense of identity, their self
mm,
confidence, because they know they know this vast and rich heritage. So, parents, you don't have to buy my books, but what you can do is tell your children about your family. Tell your children about your great grandparents. Tell them the great things that you know about your country. Tell them about the wonderful things that you know about the African country that you come from. I don't mean that you tell them that everything is rosy, but you can choose to focus on the things that no one is telling them in schools, and that can help build their identity. So
yeah.
that's what I think parents can do. Give them content, give them information, do conversations with them that will help them to grow, to realize how precious they are as black kids, how
Okay.
wonderful, how amazing.
Okay. Thank you so much. And lastly,
One
to
more thing, please. One
yeah.
more thing. I need to add something. I said I'm a serial author. I also coach young kids to write books. And of my 12 young authors, seven of them are writing about bullying. So writing is one of the ways that kids can use to liberate themselves from all kinds of trauma.
Yeah.
Encourage your child to write, whether you're publishing or not. Buy them a diary, give them a pen, and encourage them to write their experiences, even
Right.
those that
Yeah.
they can't share with you for whatever reason. Encourage them to write as a way to liberate themselves of all those experiences, and to have someone to speak to, even if it is just a piece of paper. It does really, really help. And if they can, just imagine they can write and have those books published, that would be great
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
When this child can then go out and say, like my young authors, they go back to the school, to the classmate that bullied them, come back with a book and say, I'm a young author. You see what this means? This is complete paradigm change.
It is.
And
It is.
suddenly you're no longer the bullied, you're an author. And being an
An
author comes
author.
with a whole lot of things. So
Yeah.
encourage your children to write down their experiences, whatever it is, whether they're writing with typos or not, encourage them to write.
Right. And as I said, lastly, but it's going to be a kind of two questions in one, because of time. And so, how can you be able to encourage these kids to speak out or to speak up of what they are passing through in school? Sometimes kids, they have these children, they have a kind of their friends or some kids in school, they are kind of up to the height of the bully. They can bully children, they can bully their peers and all that. And when they are doing this, they will tell that, because they already know that this child is a very quiet one. This child, it's really he or she is really quiet, and after bullying them and all that, they will tell them, don't tell your parents. If you tell your parents, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do this to you. So how will you notice that a child is being bullied in school? How will you know, and how are you going to deal with it after you knowing, after making that child to speak up when you have noticed as a parent? Because definitely you know your child when your child left to school, and you know immediately when you pick up that child, you know the kind of the face you left the child with when you drop off the child. You know the excitement the child used to enter the school, and you picking up this child now, or maybe the same person that is bullying this child just left, or maybe both of them came out the same time from the school, and you could see that withdrawal from that child, a kind of withdrawing. Is their child is trying to tell the parent, this is the person that is bullying me in school, and but that child cannot speak up. So immediately that child will get into a car or into a bus and whatever you're using to pick that child from school. You see that child go so cold. He or she doesn't know how to speak up. But some parent can just ignore. So how will you know that a child is being bullied? And how are you going to encourage that child to speak up when that kind of a thing arises in school?
I think you said it already. The first sign is when the child doesn't want to go to school in the morning.
Mm,
The second is when you pick them from school and they look really depressed and they can't speak.
yeah,
The third one is when you ask them, how was it in school? Okay. When they don't speak much, they don't say much about school.
yeah.
So there are quite a lot of signs that you can observe, but those three are very, very common in
But
kids.
some parents can be ignored. For example, like a parent
Yes.
who is rushing to work. For example, now my child is finishing by 4 o'clock in school, and by 6 o'clock I'm off to work. I'm going for night duty. I have to come home, quickly put one or two things together for them to eat, for them to go to bed. Their dad is in the train station, or their dad is coming back, or let me quickly pick him so that he can come back and stay with the kids. I'm off for work. And how can you as a parent, you've already noticed that, but because of time, you don't have that time. But that child want to speak out. You want to speak or want to tell the mom or the dad, whoever that pick is, or he or she out from school, and said, oh, look how you see that particular boy, that particular girl usually bully me in school. But when that child sees the way the parent is being, kind of, you feel my work is more is a priority to me than that child. The child is being withdrawn. So how can you as a parent, you know, uh, despite of all what you are doing, coming back home, how can tell us, how can we encourage parents out there to make sure they have time, or fetch out this what is it, these symptoms or these signs from these kids?
You said it. I'm just going to echo
Yeah.
what you said yourself.
Yeah.
As parents, we have a responsibility towards our children.
Mm.
In as much as we have a responsibility towards giving them material support and making sure that they have shelter, they have, that the bills are paid, that school fees is paid, and all of that, we have a responsibility to make sure that they have an emotional stability. And that emotional stability, you can't replace it with gift. You can't replace it with money.
Right.
It comes with you taking time. Children are very understanding. Now, I'll go from my own example. When I used to be a single parent in Europe, and it can be very tough. And I used to be an
Right.
entrepreneur, so I was not on a salary. I had to work. An entrepreneur, you work double.
Mm.
But there were more weeks when I told my children, when I said you assign the children to certain tasks, ask them what they can do, give them time to do it. It comes from that. So when
Mm.
I would tell them this week, I am not going to be a good parent, I'm not going to be a good mom because this week is all about paying bills. So I will expect you to communicate to me what is it that you want. I will expect you to do this, to do this, to do this. How do you want to do it? Come up with a plan. Okay. I give them responsibility. This already allows them to know that I trust them. It allows them to know that I have expectations towards them. It allows them to know that they have to communicate to me. Okay, you're preparing them from home how to communicate with you, because if they know how to communicate with you, they will find a way to communicate with you what is happening out of the house. Now the next thing is, after this week, the next week I'm going to try to be a better parent than I was the last week. So let's talk about all the things that we need to talk. And I used to
Right.
make the weekends to say weekends we sit down on the table and we have breakfast together. And while
Yeah.
we're having breakfast, we have a review
That's
of the
cool.
week. We ask
Yeah.
each other, how was your week? How was your week? How was your week? And sometimes I
Right.
tell them, how did you perceive me? How was I towards you? They say, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that. Please, kids, do that. And then I'll say, oh, is that the way I was? That was not
Mm.
intentional. What can I change? So it's
Yeah.
being in this dialogue. The dialogue allows the kids to know that you listen to them, that you
Right.
invite them to contribute, that even when situations are tough, you still have that ear. You can't do it throughout the week, but there's
Yeah.
that one particular day in a month, that one particular moment that you drop everything and you give them the full attention.
Right.
Okay.
Mm.
When you have this and you explain to them why, it's going to be that way, why you can't do it all the time, they understand. Our children understand if you engage them. I can't repeat that often enough.
Mm.
So give them the feeling to understand. Also give them pieces of paper. They can write what is it that is on their mind that they don't want to
Mind.
talk to you about.
Right. Yeah.
Put up a board in your
That is a
house and say,
good
this is
one.
like our notice board. Write
Mm.
everything in there if you don't want to talk about it. If someone threatens you, write it there. You can also engage someone outside that counsels the child once in a while, that the
Mm.
children go to. Some of you, you go to churches. Maybe you have Sunday school. Maybe you have some of those services that allow someone to listen to the child. The things that they're not talking to you about, they may talk more to a third party. Okay. So when you
Right.
put some of those systems in place, you see that your child is in a position not just to communicate with you, but to communicate with you about things that happened outside, because you give them that support from within the house, because they know they can count on you.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
So I
Thank you
think
so much.
there are quite a lot of small activities that you can do to
Yeah.
encourage your child to speak up, but don't force them to speak up when they don't want to speak up. They can
All right.
write.
You can write as well. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for enlightening us today on how to deal with our child, not for us to remember, um, for us to remember what we're supposed to have done as parents, for us not to, push more on these children. Rather, make sure you encourage them to do what they are supposed to have done. Make sure you talk to them, give them that time, and for them to also know that, oh, my mom this week, she's going to be very busy. Let me write this down. In case of weekend, we'll talk about it and all that, and everyone will be okay, happy family and all that. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ankwata, for coming on the show today and talking to us about how to help uh, a slow learner to become a genius. So It's been a very wonderful day.